second for you. Getting closer.
We will fight to have it all again. We will fight this battle. We will win. Riding in the burning ember, I remember when we were 7. Born in the world, an early surprise. A heart made of gold and nothing but innocent love in his eyes. But at the time, they just couldn't.
Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Getting Close Up, the show focused on independent artists and creatives. I'm your host, Danielle Cox, and as you've seen from the clip, I have a songwriter, musician, the lead guitarist, and singer for the band Sunny Side Down. Please join me as we get close up with Mike Murphy. Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for being here today.
No problem. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I really appreciate you being able to rearrange your schedule and be here and accepting, the little changes. Appreciate your flexibility.
Sure.
All right, so I just have a few questions to jump into to get to know you before we get into the interview.
Okay.
It won't be too bad. Trust me, I didn't dig up that much dirt.
Oh boy.
You cover your tracks well.
I try my best.
So tell us a little bit about where you're from.
Okay, sure.
Your background.
Yeah, so I grew up in small town Spring Hill, Kansas, about 45 minutes south of here. Lived there for, I guess, 20 years. And I got into music when I was probably, probably about 12 years old. I think it was when I was 14, though, I got my first guitar. And that's kind of where I just took off and kind of became my outlet. And I went to college in Emporia State, and then I started working after that at a place called DST Systems. It's now SS&C Technologies.
Yeah, I think I know that place.
So that's always been my day job. I've always had. I've always felt like music has kind of been more on the back burner, but it's always been there as an outlet and a good hobby.
Yeah, so but your daytime job is just mostly technical.
Yes.
So
yes.
Very.
It is. It's like my alter ego
creative.
is the music. But yeah, I've kind of kept the fire brewing in the background with my music, and I feel like maybe since the pandemic. My kids are older. I feel like I'm in a good spot where I can get into music a little bit more. I've always had it. I've always done some, performing or songwriting, and now I find myself doing it a lot more.
Yeah. And so going back to the songwriting part, as a kid, were you like writing little poems? Were you writing songs and you had like a little song book?
Yeah, sort of. I can't remember when I wrote my first song, probably within a year of having my guitar. But yeah, I've always just kind of been, I think I got it from my mom. She would always write random little poems. Her Christmas poems were classics.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, she always had a great sense of humor. And I feel like I got a lot from her. My dad's also a talented singer. He loves to impersonate Elvis Presley. He'll tell you all the time.
I can kind of hear that in your voice a little bit. Do you and your dad sound alike?
Maybe a little bit, yeah.
Okay, because I can kind of hear a tinge of that in your voice.
Yeah. But, I guess I got that creative part from her, and then I started writing some songs, and
And just went from there.
Yep.
So who are some of your main musical influences?
Oh gosh, it's such a wide range. Believe it or not, I actually started, like when I first picked up the guitar, I think my brother was into AC/DC a lot, hard rock. And I remember playing a song by them, like, this is a really cool sound, electric guitar with, distortion. And it wasn't too much, longer after that I picked up Metallica. It was like my favorite band back in the day. So I used to play tons of Metallica songs. But I don't know, as we got closer to the 90s, I really got into like the alternative rock, Weezer was one of my
yeah.
really strong influence, I think. I could go on and on. There's so many different bands. But yeah, I don't know if that is a good answer or not.
No, it's perfectly fine. Well, let's get into your experiences as a performing artist.
Sure.
Tell me about your first experience in performing, first gig you did.
Oh gosh. Well, back in college, I actually remember it. There was some credit card sponsored a big talent show at the university. And so all the students were trying out, and a lot of them had different bands. And, I was, I don't know, I was kind of just, I don't know, what do you call it? A lone ranger, if you will. When I was at college, I was kind of obsessed with basketball. Like I just played basketball all the time. And then, if I wasn't playing basketball or in class, then I was back home with my girlfriend. So I didn't have like a ton of friends at that time when we did, I think it was the first year I was there. And so I decided I'll just do it by myself. So I did a song, on stage in front of tons of people. And it was an original that I wrote.
Oh, okay.
And it went pretty good. I didn't win the contest by any means, but man, it was, quite a rush getting up in front of people and doing that. But yeah, that was the first time. And I think my mom actually had filmed it, probably have it somewhere, but
oh, wow.
I remember watching it back and cringing. Never liked the sound of my voice or the way I look on camera, so.
So your first experience was solo,
but
you're in a band now. So
I am.
Sunny Side Down.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about that. First of all, I love the name.
Thank you.
So when I think of it, it kind of does throw me back to the kind of darker alts, type of thing. So did the name have anything to do with the type of sound you guys wanted to do?
A little bit. So there was it's funny, I had a very long list of band names. And if I remember right, I'm trying to remember. I think we had a different band name at first. I think it was The Flip Side, and then it was Downtime, and then somehow we morphed it into Sunny Side Down. And I think my mom attributed some of the ideas, and I honestly can't remember if that name came from me or her, but with a long list of the names, she liked that one the most. So that was, I think
she's
that
already
was
the
some
poet,
influence.
right?
Oh,
so,
yeah. But yeah, it had a little bit of a kind of, it was kind of the darker rock, alternative type stuff back then. And so yeah, you could have multiple meanings with it. So yeah, just kind of liked it.
And how did you guys form?
So when I got out of college, there was a circle of friends that I'd hang out with, and one of the guys from Iowa played guitar, and we ran into another guy that happened to play drums, and we'd said, the three of us should get together and just jam sometime. And so that was back in probably the year 2000, long time ago. And then we went through a couple different bass players and playing some little basement shows, little house parties. And then somebody wanted us to play for their birthday at the Peanut in downtown Kansas City.
Oh, yeah.
So that was our first official show. And people loved it. They wanted us to play more, and we started playing at John's downtown.
Yeah.
And we kind of became their regular house band through the years. Just really loved the crowds down there. But, after many years, they had to shut down live bands because I think the noise ordinance and all the lofts that got built up.
Yeah, it changed a lot.
It did.
It did. It changed a whole lot. So, were you guys doing your original music? At that time, it was a mix of things?
Good question. So, when you play the bars in Kansas City, you pretty much, there's places that cater towards originals. You don't make a whole lot of money, obviously. Of course, you don't make a whole lot of money doing either, but we really got into more of the cover songs. But we would throw in, maybe 2 or 3 originals per night. Get the people a little drunk, give them a chance to loosen up.
Lubricate them a little bit.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. We would work some of our originals in, and after some time, people would request them, and that was always humbling, But I think I want to say it was 2005 maybe. we put an album together. We went into a recording studio and finally did it right. And so, you know, I guess for me, it was like, we've never aspired to be like big stars by any means.
Yeah.
It's always been this little side hobby, but at the same time, it was, you know, kind of this, I felt like I really made it when my son was probably 2 or 3 years old, and I had like the CD in my car at the time, and he had heard one of the songs and liked it, and he would say, play that again, play that again. Like, okay, I made it. My son, he recognizes that he likes it, so that was, you know, that was enough for me.
And I think it's a really dope perspective because, I mean, people do music for different reasons. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like you just said, you're like, it's a hobby, but it was something that you were passionate about. It's your outlet.
Yeah.
You enjoy the performing aspect, obviously. It's your
Right.
first experience didn't run you off.
Yeah.
So you survived that, and then you're just
Yeah.
like, I kind of like this, and then kept going. And so has the band pretty much stayed the same? It's the same two guys, or it changes over time?
Well, yeah, so for the longest time, the answer was yes, except for, I think the first 3 or 4 years, we had different bass players, but we had a bass player. We were a long, steady band for the longest time. And then last year, our drummer, you know, he wanted to step down. He had been doing it for a long time, and, you know, we've all got families and jobs and just other priorities, right? And so we, you know, fully respect his decision. He's, you know, great guy. So, you know, no hard feelings by any means. And then the same thing with our bass player, except he actually switched careers for his day job, and he bought a bar.
Oh.
Yeah, at a restaurant bar. He bought, it's called F325 Barbecue in North Kansas City. So he's been very busy with that.
Yeah.
But he loves music, and so, you know, we still, you know, play with him from time to time. And, you know, we tell Dave is the drummer and James is the bass player. We say, you guys are always the band, you know. So, you know.
No diva stories.
No diva stories. No, and we still, I think next weekend they have a show with James. We do like some acoustic acts as well, and duo, trio stuff. And so, you know, there's flexibility. So, yeah.
And you mentioned your first album. You got in the studio that in 2005. It was Something in the Water. Is that the right one?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And so
you want to know about the title, don't you? Yeah. So the funny story behind that is basically for 3 of us in the band, we all had kids that were born like a week from each other.
Okay.
So must have been something in the
water.
Yeah. So yeah, good question.
What was that process like, putting out an album for the first time?
Oh, well, it was interesting.
Because it's a lot different then than it would be now. Because you also released another album just a year ago?
Yep.
It was a year ago? So how has that been different?
So the first time we went into, I believe it was Chapman Recording Studio, and they have different packages of how you can do things, right? We took like the late night shift, which was like half price, you know, we didn't want to pay. But we ended up getting a really good engineer. His name was Neil, and he did a really good job with everything. And it was, you know, a little bit more pressure. You're in the real studio, you're cutting everything live, you know, you make a mistake, and it's like, yeah, you could kind of edit that, but let's redo it, you know, let's not have any flaws. And so anyway, the technologies and everything, I mean, super, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And then flash forward to, you know, when we did our most recent one, we did it in one of the guys' basement. And, you know, he's got some pretty good microphones, you know, but there's just different software and just different capabilities now where we can do a lot on our own. And we probably, you know, it would have been a lot better, obviously, to go into a real studio. But, you know, once you have the files, then, you know, what we kind of shopped around to find somebody to actually do the mixing and mastering. And so, yeah, we, you know, ended up getting something that I think sounded even better than what we did back then. Now, granted, you know, if we'd gone into a studio now, it probably would have been even, you know, far and above better, but
Because the second album, Eternal Flame. Right? Or did I get that
Infinite
right?
Ember.
Infinite
Yeah,
Ember.
close
Okay,
enough.
sorry. It's like Infinite Ember. I had it written down,
Yep.
and then my brain said something else. So Infinite Ember. But I actually, no, for real, even though I messed up the name, I actually love it.
Oh, wow.
I do.
Thank you.
And it's, you can't, I wouldn't even known. The fact that you just told me how different it was recording that one versus the first one, I wouldn't have known. I would not have known the difference.
Yeah.
It sounds really good.
Oh,
so
thank
it's,
you.
I mean, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask you the question, because there's so much stuff that's changed. There's so much
Yes.
stuff like you didn't, really go at, trying to continue in marketing in that particular way back then.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to now that you have the time and things like that, it's a whole new ball game for you.
It is. It is. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest, my biggest regret with everything music related is that it's hard enough to find the time to create. I've had zero time for like real marketing and just trying to get things out there. And we've had people tell us even 20 years ago, like, this song needs to be on the radio. And like, okay, I sent a CD to like 2 radio stations or something, right? And a little, typed up something.
You're like,
And I've never pushed hard. I've never tried hard. And so I kind of regret that, because I feel like some of it probably is good enough that maybe it could get, some airplay. Now, none of us are going to hop in a bus and tour the cities playing that, but still, it'd be nice to have it just heard more. And that's all I've ever wanted, is just, have things heard, be able to connect with people. It's therapy for me. Maybe it's therapy for others to hear some of it, I don't know. But yeah, it is a different world now, for sure.
Yeah, completely. But I feel like you do a really good job of promoting your live performances. Tell me a little bit more about your approach to promoting or getting yourself out there and doing different gigs, because you do a lot of gigging.
Yeah, I've done more now than ever. So part of that is, before when you got 4 guys, scheduling is a nightmare. Especially, like I said, we've all got careers that always, come first with our families and everything else. So when you have a back burner hobby and you're decent enough that a lot of people want to book you, it's hard to find time. And so, that's been the challenge with it. But what happened is, like, probably has nothing to do with the pandemic, but just as the kids got older and I wanted to play a little more, I had always wanted to do like some acoustic solo acts and just to try that out. And so I don't even remember the first one I've done, because now I feel like I've done so many. But for the last couple years, I've started incorporating a lot of solo gigs. And then also some duos with James, who I mentioned before. So I don't know, that I actually get a little more enjoyment out of that, because it's not as loud, first of all. And so, it's a nice chill atmosphere. But I can incorporate some stuff when people get up and dance. I have a little beat machine and looper that I can make it sound like a full band on some songs. So, you kind of pick and choose when to do that. But I feel like it gives more flexibility towards the audiences, and the crowd seem to enjoy it even more sometimes than a full band, just, I guess depending on where you are. But I've done that mainly because I want to play more, and it's hard to book shows with all the other guys. And even, we have a new drummer now and a new bass player, and we kind of have this hard limit of, we only want to book about 12 full band gigs a year. That's about as much as we can do. And the problem is, like, a lot of places that book us, they want to keep booking us,
That's awesome.
And so we feel like we have to draw the line somewhere. And yeah, it's been a challenge, because it's hard for me to say no. Like, I just want to keep playing. So like, instead of 12, I think the guys frown at me a little, because we're up to like 15 gigs now. They're like, and you want to play another one? So, I really love playing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's changed a lot for me the last couple of years, but I enjoy where I'm at with it right now. So, yeah.
And that's a good segue into my next question, because you love to perform, you like being out there, you try to set a boundary, and you kind of like, working within that a little bit. So how do you balance You know what I'm gonna ask? Like, how do you balance like your everyday life stuff with this passion that you have for performing?
Very carefully. It's so I guess for me at this point, I've been doing it 20 years. Music is kind of like riding a bike. I try to take time to learn new songs. Like, people give requests. If I don't know it, I'll try to learn it maybe for the next gig. But for me, it doesn't take as much time when I'm not on stage. So I don't feel like I have to practice a whole lot. So all that time in between, got a family to keep up with.
Yep.
I've got, my son graduates here.
Oh, wow,
next
congratulations.
month. So 3 teenagers. My daughter's in college now. My other son, he'll be graduating next year. So
it's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel coming up here.
A little bit, And when my wife, God bless her, she's so patient, and she loves to come to the shows and watch, and she's incredibly supportive. Without her, I definitely wouldn't be doing this as much. But she's kind of helped push me, to be honest, which I greatly appreciate.
That's beautiful.
And I'll be honest too. Like, there's other things in my life that have kind of led to me doing this more and being more passionate. I talked about my mom a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it was, it was back in 2006. I won't go into all the details, but when I was a young kid, a sophomore in high school, she was diagnosed with lung cancer. And they said, she's got a few months to live. They brought in hospice, and, it was a really bad thing. She ended up fighting it, winning, and living 13 more years.
Shut up.
To be able to see, graduations, weddings, and all these great things. But when, unfortunately in 2006, cancer had come back, and she, she passed away. And I had written this song for her like right before she passed, and I was like, I don't know, I was kind of in a dark spot. And, I was like, I'm writing this for you, and I'm never, this is just for you. I'm never going to play this for anyone. This is a special song, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, it was just a very emotional time. And, she basically said, I want you to play this for the world. Promise me you'll keep playing music. And so that kind of little bit of a fire for me, and then, I'm trying not to get choked up, but about a year ago, so my brother, who we'd have to do a whole nother show about him. His name was Fletch. He, the biggest hero in my life, but he had special needs. He was born extremely premature, all kinds of issues that he battled his whole life. But my mom was determined to, raise him in a normal capacity and, put him in normal school and,
right.
Get a job, different things that, at the high level, I will tell you that he's like a modern day Forrest Gump because first of all, he almost made the Guinness Book of World Records. He wrote his numbers by hand from 1 to 1,000,000.
What?
Yeah. Well, my other brother challenged him and said, I bet you can't do it. And oh boy.
That just...
So he had like 18 notebooks. And
I get the Forrest Gump comparison from that part. I get it.
But anyway, I'm going into all this, and I promise there's a point. So he, he was my biggest inspiration. And I don't know if you remember Bob Dole back in the day.
Yeah.
He was, before he ran for president, he basically, because when my brother almost made the Guinness Book of World Records, the local paper did a story about him, and it, he was born with this lowered IQ, and he was destined to be institutionalized his whole life, and so, kind of the news got a hold of the fact that, my mom, how determined she was, and she wasn't having it, and how determined Fletch was, and all these things culminated into Bob Dole getting a hold of this and saying, I'm going to use this guy as the primary example of why we need to pass the Americans with Disabilities Act. So on the congressional record that Bob Dole sent to my mom, he used Fletch's story and
Wow.
passed the Americans with Disabilities Act. So now it may have
That
passed
is
without
big.
Fletch, but I like to say that because of my brother, you know.
Of course, you get to say that.
Yeah, yeah.
You get to say
But
that.
where I'm going is not only was he this big hero and everything, but his life was music.
Yeah.
Like, he had every CD you could ever imagine. Well, tapes before CDs. And then he had every CD. And then it was, you know, my job to convert all of them to MP3s.
Oh, nice.
And just, I was the guy managing his music for his whole life. And so anyway, me and Fletch had this incredible bond with music. And long story short, Fletch had a heart attack suddenly about a year ago and passed.
So
And
sorry.
so, you know, I guess for me, it was probably one of my, it was the hardest song I ever wrote in my life. But, you know, I wrote a song about him, and, you know, he is such a strong motivation. And so where I'm really going is he lit that fire in me even more when he passed. Mm-hmm. And I go back to what my mom said. I go back to everything with Fletch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, I don't have any dreams that I'm ever going to be big with music, but I need to do more with it. You know, I've been very blessed. I feel like I haven't done it justice for the last 20 years even though I've had a band and, you know, played some gigs here and there. And, you know, I'm trying to do a lot more with it. I got into songwriting even more now. There's a company called Glorious that was on Shark Tank.
Oh, yeah.
And telling T about it earlier, it's like they had an idea that I had about 10 years ago, like writing songs for people. When,
Yeah, I heard
you
you
know,
tell them that.
it's like, I wish I had done something more with that, but if you can't beat them, join them. So I joined. They have hundreds of songwriters.
So is it like a platform for people to like shop around their music to other artists, or?
No, basically what it is if people want to give a gift to somebody, like, oh, I want to write a song for you and I want to surprise you, and
Oh,
you know,
okay.
Oh, here, listen to this new song playing on the radio. Tell me what you think, and you listen to it, and all of a sudden it's a song about you, and it's got your name in it, and it's got different facts, things that you love. And you're like,
Got you.
oh my God, that's so romantic. Who did that? You know. So that's what they do.
But you've written for that.
Yes.
And
yes.
so people can.
So customers can order from me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And so, you know, and you get paid a little bit. It's not a whole lot, but I've probably I've been doing it about a year, and probably about 30 songs.
Oh,
that
wow.
you know, the biggest, you know, kind of like that moment I told you with my son, where it's like, oh, play that again. You get to read these reviews where people are like, oh my God, this was so beautiful. You know, one guy, he found me on social media, and he called me, and he gave me like $150 tip, and he's like, you know, I just want to let you know, how much this meant to me and my wife. My wife, she was diagnosed with cancer recently. This brought her to tears, and I'm like, okay, this is rewarding. Like, this is all I need, you know. So yeah, it's been amazing. Like.
So it sounds to me like you've reconnected with
I think
this
so.
whole thing. Like you
Yeah.
kind of had a little bit going there, but it was a little over a hobby. But I feel like you've really
Yeah.
reconnected with why you want to get into music. So now that you've reconnected,
Yeah.
what's next for you?
That's a great question. You know, for me, I still have the perspective that, you know, my career I am very appreciative for, my day
Yeah.
job, and, you know, and my family, and, you know, those things are just, they're always going to be first. So I still have to keep the perspective. It's still, you know, not the top priority. However, you know, I want to play more. I want to play bigger shows. That would be, you know, more ideal for me. I would love to market some of the music that we've done and try to, you know, get it to the right places.
Yeah.
I know it's all about connections and timing and networking. For me, I want to network more. That's one of my goals. There's a lot of great musicians in this city, and tons of talent. And to be honest, like as you can imagine, balancing my life, it's like, all right, I have a night off. I don't want to go out and listen to music. I want to stay at home with my wife or do something with my kids, and so I don't get out and see a lot of other musicians. But I'd like to. And I'd like to network with them and get to know them more. And You know, and that's, you can build a better network, more following, and just do more from that perspective.
Yeah.
Would be good. But I don't know what's next beyond that. It's a great question.
I think that's a great start, though, because,
Yeah.
you know, you wanting to network, and there's so many ways you can do that now.
Yeah.
There's so many ways that you can put your music out there to, you know, get it seen and get it heard. Although, you know, a lot of those methods aren't, you know, the match on the haystack, and it's not like it's gonna all the time, but it could.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful part about that opportunity.
Yeah.
So with that said, where can people find your music, find out where you're going to be, what you're doing, so that, you know, somebody watching was like, let's connect, let's link.
Okay. Yeah, so I have let's start with Facebook, right? So on Facebook, it's Mike Murphy Music Page. Yeah, kind of long. Or Sunnyside Down KC is the band. And then I think I have an Instagram that's MM77KC. You can follow me there. We've got a website for the band as well. Song Glorious, you can just look up Mike Murphy Song Glorious and you can find me there. Or you can just hit me up, send me a DM, and, you know, I can write a song that way. Yeah, that's the primary ways.
That's awesome. I think that's a great start.
Yeah.
And I cannot wait to see what's next. I mean, with all the kids flying the coop and that whole, because my son, he's been out of the house for like 3 years now. You do find other things to do.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah.
I found something else to do, clearly. So yes, it is a whole new world, and it opens up other opportunities. I love the fact that your wife supports you in the thing that she knows is in you, and I think that's amazing. So I am very much looking forward to seeing what's next, and I thank you so much for being with me today.
Yeah.
And talking with me.
Great to be here. Yeah, I will add one last thing too.
Yeah, sure.
Thinking about your last question you had asked, and recently, speaking to my wife, we went on a trip with some friends to Nashville. And I had never been there.
Ooh.
And wow.
Yeah.
You can talk about music city. I mean, I couldn't, you know, just blocks and blocks of just nothing but bands on every floor of every bar, and it was off the charts. But I wasn't trying to, but, you know, I started talking with one of the musicians, and, you know, I tipped him, and he started asking me some questions. And the next thing you know, he's like, "Well, you want to come up and perform with us?" Woo, okay, sure. So I played in Nashville, and
that is awesome.
I was like, "Wow, okay, now this I'm feeling more legit now." But so yeah, there's a lot of motivation that I'm feeling the last really several months.
It's like it's nudging you towards a cliff. Like you're just like about an inch and a half away from it.
It's kind of scary.
I mean, but the fall is the best part.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what people pay for.
I guess so. Well, anyway,
That's awesome.
It's been very nice to be on. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And like I said, you're going to jump off that edge. I see it.
Oh, boy. Okay.
All right, you guys, that wraps up today's show. I have many thanks again to Mike Murphy for joining me and sharing his story. The links that he gave will be down in the description box below, so definitely check him out and see what's next for him for sure. If you had as much fun as we did today, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so we can keep bringing it to you. New episodes of Getting Close Up air bi-weekly on Fridays. And next Friday, make sure you check out GCU Reviews, where we'll give you the tea on what's hot and what's not. You'll have fun with it, trust me. Again, thanks to you all for watching. Thank you for being here. You stay awesome, stay blessed, and I'll see you again soon for another Close Up. I'll be checking for you.